Good evening. Welcome to the October 14th Finance and Facilities Committee meeting of the School District of Haverford Township. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need to call her all for a committee meeting? Or?
We do not.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. Tonight, the first item on our agenda is an update from Ken Matthews on the spending of our allowances on the high school Phase 1 and Lynnwood projects. Ken will be discussing all the spending allowances that have been incurred thus far, and moving forward, we'll be providing a monthly report on those allowances and uses them each month.
All right, good evening, everyone. So just wanted to come tonight just to give a little update here, as Kelly said, on the allowances on the two projects. So the allowances, if you all recall, are they're built into the base bid of the contract. So we put them in there when we know there's going to be certain issues. I'll start with Lynnwood. It's pretty straightforward. So we did the geotech report that we knew there were going to be a lot of soft soil issues, those type of things. So we build it into the budget so that it's an opportunity to immediately react when things happen. So for example, there was a number of allowances for structural fill, if there's rock, if you needed to compact soils. So they're built in. It was quite a significant amount in Lynnwood. It was basically close to $500,000 in allowances for that work. We knew there was, under the classroom wing, there was over 10,000 yards of soil that had to come out. And then it helped deal with piping issues. We had to keep the existing building in operation. So anything like that where issues come up, they're kind of unforeseen and we can deal with them. And then we use the allowance money to do that. So in lieu of constantly having change orders, we have that money built in to the project bid and budget already. So basically where we are now is at Lynnwood, most of the allowances have been depleted. So we're at the point, you can see here, there's an estimated balance of about $30,000, just shy of $30,000 left. Now that the project is essentially over, just about, we would just recommend that for some of the lingering change orders where the paperwork's behind, that the contractor still owes us that, in lieu of taking this money back, only to write another change order back, we'll just deplete the allowance against some of those change orders that are coming in, that are all in the budget. We know they're coming, they're tracked. It's just the physical paperwork generally seems to lag on most of these projects, trying to get the project managers to submit everything here at the end of the project.
Excuse me, Ken?
Yes.
Is that a common practice in this industry? And obviously, with all the requirements in Harrisburg around reporting and building, I would imagine this is something that Harrisburg has dealt with previously and it's okay to do.
You mean as far as having allowances and?
Yeah, and using that for future change orders.
Oh, well, here at the end, because it's really just an accounting area at this point.
Okay.
So you use it for the allowances for the issues, that true issues came up at the job. But now you're literally just offsetting change order costs that are there. So it's nothing more than accounting just to close out the project. And you can see it's a small amount left of it was over $500,000, and there's just a $30,000 balance. So yeah, there's no issue with doing that. And similarly, the high school, much smaller project. So the allowances again were a lot smaller. So in similar fashion, the first handful were depleted, and we're down to a balance of only a little over $15,000 on the project. And again, there's actually only a few change orders that will be coming forward, and we can use this money in the same fashion to offset it against that. So, the allowances, you can see here, there's also some labor man hours that are put in there, and that's just typically for issues that come up at the end of the project. The district may have third-party movers come in, they ding up some walls, we can use a few man hours to fix it, those type of things, to just help get the project cleaned up and closed out. So Does anybody have any questions about the allowances themselves or what specifically they're for?
Good, looks like.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ken. Now Ken will provide an update on the climate control project at Coopertown and Chatham Park.
Okay, great. So, yes, as you know, the design engineers were engaged 6 months ago or so, whatever it was now, approved by the board to move forward with the design of installing climate control in both Chatham Park and Coopertown. So they're about 90%, 85, 90% done with those documents. We've been reviewing them together, going through the scope, which is basically both schools will be getting a new chiller. There are, as everybody knows, the only air conditioning at both schools is essentially window air conditioning. There are a few anomalies, like the library at Coopertown has a rooftop unit. But the idea is to put in a new chiller, so you'd have a 4-pipe system, hot water, 2 hot water, and chilled water. So it would be similar to Lynnwood, Chestnut Wall, Manoa, and we would be installing new units in all the classrooms. There's really just not much architectural work. You know, we're not repainting the entire building or doing anything like that. So the ceiling tiles will be replaced. There's going to be new LED lighting throughout the building, so that will really enhance the building from that standpoint. So really, and 100% of the building of both buildings will be air conditioning, the gym, cafeteria, all the admin areas, and all the classrooms. So the goal is to get this done over the next 2 summers. So essentially, the project would start in May 2022, because we need to get into the boiler rooms. We do have to replace boilers as well. Chatham Park had a boiler replaced about 2 years ago. It needs a second one to replace the other existing one that's there, that's original. Coopertown has 2 original boilers that need to be replaced. So that, want to try and get a little bit of a jump on that work, because obviously compacting this into the summer is very tight. So next summer, the bulk of that work would be done, new boilers installed, new chillers installed, and the following summer would just be anywhere from 15 to 20 classrooms that wouldn't be quite finished yet. Chatham Park, actually, it's about 17 classrooms that would be done in 2023. And at Coopertown, it would basically be the admin area, the library, and that classroom wing would get done in 2023. But as it stands now, most of all those spaces pretty much have air conditioning with the window air conditioners in them. So Coopertown also, as part of this, does need a roof replacement, so we're kind of filling that in as part of the project and figure out how we're going to do that. So that's kind of the overall gist. In all the classrooms, the only thing, that I missed was there's some very old, original sinks, kind of small casework with a sink in it that will be replaced as part of the project as well. Does anybody have any questions about the scope or the general scope? Oh, excuse me. So what we're here tonight to go through is also the schedule for bidding and whatnot. So the goal would be at next week's board meeting for you all to approve proceeding with bidding the project. We would bid it early November. We're kind of fine tuning the exact date, probably the week of November 8th. Have bids due back the week after Thanksgiving, early December. And then we would, hopefully, assuming everything comes in within budget, et cetera, come back to you all at the December 16th board meeting to approve the project to proceed, because it is important, again, with our wonderful supply chain issues and 60 ships sitting out in the sea of California, to get materials ordered as quickly as possible.
Do we have an estimate on a budget for this project?
Both projects, we do have an estimated budget. I gave that to Martha. I can pull that up if you'd like to go through it. But approximately, I don't want to give numbers without exact numbers. Where I'm happy to report on it at the board meeting. Would you like to do that? So I submitted it, we went through it, so we'll share that next week.
And I do know that for the November Finance and Facilities meeting, Martha is planning on that being a heavy finance agenda. Jamie Schlesinger from PFM will be coming and looking at our borrowing to date and moving forward.
Ken, you mentioned that this work would be done in phases. Do you have any idea around how we would prioritize which classrooms and spaces of school buildings receive the replacement first?
So it really comes down to how the piping and everything is run through the building, and it almost lends itself to a clean break without getting into the weeds. But Chatham Park, if you look at the building, the whole cafeteria and gym is kind of one big giant wing with the auditorium. That would get done the first summer, and a handful of classrooms on the first floor. The second summer would be the second floor of the classroom wing, and then the entire first and second floor of the far wing, actually kind of toward Manoa Road on that side. Coopertown, again, it was kind of this same logic, the way the piping is run around the building. The gym, cafeteria, that kind of whole wing would get done the first summer, and then the original school, which is the front entrance, the admin area, and then when you're looking at the main entrance to the right, that would get done that second summer. So it was really more from a piping standpoint and doing that, because you don't want to run the pipe all the way to the end, and it just makes it very difficult. So we tried to make it as clean of a cut for the contractor as possible.
And also, do you anticipate, will the piping be replaced? Is this new system able to plug into the existing piping?
So that's a good question. So almost all the hot water piping is getting saved and getting reused. So that's a great benefit. Really, you have old unit ventilators under the window. They get ripped out. New shelving gets put back in its place. The old louvers that are there just get covered over, so the weather doesn't come in. And then we just cut that pipe above the ceiling and reconnect it, and then put it into the new units. So Coopertown, the units will be in the ceiling, and everything is even ductwork distribution. So it's a lot more even heating and cooling of the space, and not just, a unit blowing at the window where somebody might be cold there and then it's, warm on the other side. So we'll evenly temper the space.
Great, thank you. I have one last question.
Sure.
In terms of energy efficiency, is that part of the pricing? Like, we're going to be including, are there certain models that we're looking at, or certain models we're required to be using in this project to enhance efficiency in our buildings?
Yes, so everything you have now, the boilers just run 100% all the time. There's no control of them. The new boilers going in, you can throttle them way back, so that's the big energy savings, similar to, Lynnwood and the other newer buildings. So that's a huge benefit. And then the same thing with the chiller. The chiller, in the middle of the summer, when only some of the buildings used, you can let the temperatures rise higher in the classrooms. You throttle the chiller way back. If you use the gym for 1 week, you can turn the chiller all the way up and then turn it way back when the space isn't used. So all those efficiencies are there, yes, for energy savings.
Thank you.
Questions?
Guess my only question, you may not have this number right now, but do you have a sense of, between the LED lighting and the new chillers and everything, do you have a sense of like monetary saving for energy?
We can have the engineer, usually they do a little bit of a study of that, so we could have them come up with an idea. The one thing you do have to remember, you never had air conditioning, so that does add electrical load to the building. So you are using more energy from that standpoint, but from the heating system, that's far more efficient than it was. But we can certainly ask the engineer, and the LED lighting, of course, is certainly a huge savings electrically. Coopertown does need a new electrical service, because the chiller, the existing service is not enough to handle the new chilled water equipment. So that's the one other nuance with Coopertown. Chatham Park was upgraded 4 or 5 years ago.
Thank you, Ken.
No problem. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
So the next item on our agenda is a discussion of the solar installation at Lynnwood. At a previous board meeting, or a previous meeting, there was a presentation about solar installation on the new Lynnwood project. And being honest, neither Martha nor I have the experience with a solar installation. As a result, we reached out to the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials just to get more information. They had referred us to the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium. And with us tonight from the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium is Haj Young. He'll be presenting information on the work and another option for solar installation at the Lynnwood building. So, Haj, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think we have a presentation here coming up soon. Is it going to be on the screen here?
Clicker's right there.
Is it clicker?
Oh, that's it.
Okay. Yep. And do I just push this up? Okay, so I wanted to just let you guys know a little bit about the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium. We're created by PASA and PASBO to help school districts in Pennsylvania lower their overall energy spend. And so we partnered with them to bring a new and innovative approach to energy management and to renewable energy services. So we look at lowering the overall cost. So we usually will start with the supply contract and try to get a lower rate on your current supply contract. So we try to meet districts where they are and lower the current rate. And then we look at renewable energy solutions to lower the rates even further, to reduce the overall spend. I want you to pay close attention to our mission. Our mission is to preserve the partnerships with schools and to save them money and build renewable energy solutions and that should be no, I apologize for the typo. There's 2 typos in here, that's one of them. But at no out of cost to the school district. There's no out-of-pocket cost to the school district. And so we obviously can't control where the district puts the money, but we highly recommend that they put it back into programming to help the kids, because this money is free for districts to use wherever they feel the greatest need, which is a huge asset for a lot of districts. Interest of full transparency, we are backed by Econergy. Econergy is a program manager for the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium. And they work with consortiums across the United States to bring this model to states. So they start with the supply, then move to on-site, and then maximize the savings by using a consortium model. The model is you will reduce the overall spend by using volume discounts to drive down the cost. So Econergy only makes money if the school districts save money. And that's shown to you up front, and then it's contractually guaranteed on the back end. A little bit about the company to date. This is a little bit older, but 1.5 terawatt hours of generation. That's gone up now. They've serviced over 2,500 schools. That's about 3,000 now. They have consortiums in, I think it's 7 states now, and they've built several behind-the-meter systems as well as utility-scale systems. So you asked us to look at Lynnwood, which is a school in your district here, and we understand that it's a new school. And so we've taken a look, and this presentation is fairly short, but I'm going to spend a little bit extra time on this slide here. If you'll notice, I think you guys are familiar with the PPA sort of model, right? The PPA term is generally 20 to 25 years. But look at the price. The price is $76 per megawatt hour. Currently, you guys are paying roughly $91 to $95 per megawatt hour. I know there's been some shift with the new building versus the old, but you're paying about a little bit over $90 a megawatt hour now. If you install solar, you'll be paying between 72 and 78 cents per megawatt hour. That's a huge amount of savings. And if you look at all the way to the right, you'll see what the production will be. All right, 279,000 kilowatt hours. And your first year savings will be about $4,000. Now, the biggest thing I want to point out is that there is no out-of-pocket cost up front. There's no cost to operate the system. There's no cost to maintenance it or maintain it, and we insure it. So we are a true partner for school districts. The more that you can free up funds and the less that you have to go to bonding, the better it is for the school district. And so I'll keep going, and then if you guys have questions, we can come back. This is a rendering of what your solar system would look like. Okay, it just gives you an idea of the layout of the building, where the solar will be placed. Obviously, there'll have to be an engineer that comes out and takes a look at the site to make sure that everything we think is feasible on paper is actually feasible in reality. But this is pretty close. And then it gives you some idea of the number of trees that you will be planting that would sort of give you an idea of how much energy you're saving or how much you're reducing your carbon footprint. Some other little interesting facts about driving less on the road and taking cars off the road. But the idea is we are doing well and doing good and helping the school district while also improving the environment. Here's just another look at the rendering for your school here at Lynnwood. And the bottom picture shows you just sort of what the array will look like once it's on the roof. And then here you see you generate about 82% of your energy at Lynnwood from your solar system. Keep in mind that even though it's only 82% size here, there are many days when it will be sunny and you will overproduce. Here you guys have net metering, so that the credits that will roll into your next bill, or you get credit at the end of the year and you get money back. So that actually brings money back into the district. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions that you have. I have one more slide, but I want to make sure I kind of roll through that quickly to get through it and give an overview. And then if you have questions, I'd love to entertain them.
Yeah. So I have a question. So basically, let me make sure I have the kind of the framework down here. So Econergy is kind of the overarching management association. And then they have different consortiums under them, of which Pennsylvania is one of them.
That's correct.
Okay. So if solar panels then would be installed, you mentioned there'd be no cost. Who would own the panels? Is it the consortium? Is it Econergy? What's the ownership look like of that?
The consortium would own the project.
Okay, so and that's in perpetuity essentially, correct?
I'm sorry?
That's in perpetuity. They own the panels
For the 25-year
25 years.
PPA. And let me just make sure you understand Econergy and Pennsylvania Clean Energy, and I think in Illinois Future Green Energy Consortium, there's a partnership there. So everything flows back up to Econergy, and Econergy does handle the financing, and they handle and some of the other stuff I'm going to show you in a minute, but they handle the financing, they handle the support, they handle the procurement. That's how you get the volume discounts, right? That all flows down to the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium, which then provides the service to the school districts.
Okay, and the consortium saves money through sounds like it's through like a pooled resource almost.
Yes, I mean, in this case, the reason why you would save money on the solar build itself, and each one will stand alone, is because you take all the costs to build the system, the modules, the panels, the inverters, everything to build the system, and that gets financed up front.
Okay.
And then we spread the cost over 25 years, and that's a fixed amount. And when you do that, you can lower your rates that you will be paying on your green power versus what you were paying on your brown power.
Okay. And then, so I guess the requirements of this from our standpoint would be to join the consortium, obviously. Are there any other roles or responsibilities that we would then be
No,
obligated?
and that's the beauty of well, by working with us, you already joined the consortium, right? By engaging in a project with us on the supply side or the development side, you become part of the consortium. And then when we do stuff on the supply side, like do aggregated, load for your contracts, you would participate in that. If we look at a number of districts, like for example, Carlisle and Pinoco, we're looking at, let's say if all three of you wanted to build your project in the spring, we will procure all the product for your 3 districts at the same time, further reducing the costs on the engineering, procurement, and construction side, which could drive your PPA price down even lower. And so the beauty of it is the only obligation to the school district is that you pay a reduced energy bill.
Gotcha, okay.
Is there public comment tonight? I see a member of our audience has raised her hand, and I don't know if that's,
There's public comment after
There
we're,
is.
yep, after we're finished.
okay,
Yep.
great, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Why wouldn't a school go with you? Why haven't more schools? Why isn't every school doing this? It sounds
because-
like a win, 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 win.
So
all
it
those
is,
wins.
and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. They don't know. And there are not organizations out there that are advocating on behalf of school districts. There's businesses out there that are out to make money, but we want to put the school districts first. And our principles come from education, the backgrounds are in education. And we got a bunch of guys like me who are millennials who believe we can change the world, and we wanted to build a kind of company that reflects that and that gives back and that puts students first. So in the states where it's been rolled out, it's been wildly successful. That's why Wayne and Mark Passa and Pasbo partnered with Econergy to bring you the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium. And that's why I'm here. It's to spread the word, it's to, let you guys know that we're here and we're out here helping school districts.
Do you have any learning opportunities for students to be able to monitor how their building is performing in real time or
Yeah, let me
over
go
a
to the
period
next-
of time so that they can celebrate how they are helping not only their school, their community, their district, but also the planet?
Yes, and if you look at the bottom here, you'll see that's the second one from the bottom. We offer guidance on programming for photovoltaic to help students understand what they have at their school. Because here's the thing, once it's up there, you probably wouldn't know it's there unless you know, right? You wouldn't see it. But we do have programming for kids, because kids are into this. They love solar, and they're excited about it. It's actually convincing the adults to move ahead and take the leap and embrace the technology. But the other thing on the bottom here, the one thing we will also do, we'll throw it in as a freebie. Once the system is built, we will put a bench that has a canopy out on campus, and it'll have a little advertisement that tells how the system was built. It'll show pictures of the construction phase. It'll talk about how many trees you're saving. It'll show how much energy is being produced and how much savings you're getting at your school. And they'll have little charging ports, little charging stations where the kids can sit and chat and talk about renewable energy and charge their phones and charge their laptops and things like that. We throw that in as a freebie because we love that we can offer the service, and we like to see kids out there enjoying it.
You mentioned a guarantee. Can you talk about where that comes in and what's covered? I'm just curious what the variables are and how the system might perform compared to projections and our energy savings. Like, can you just kind of walk through what the guarantee covers and
Sure.
that's spelled out?
So you would enter into a power purchase agreement, and well before that, you'd have a proposal similar to what I showed you here. It would show what your system would produce, the number of panels that you would have, the amount of energy you would offset from your load, and the power purchase agreement would guarantee your price per megawatt hour. that really is the governing document that is the PPA. And you will also have a lease agreement, that's a standard lease agreement where you would get payment from the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium for having the ability to lease your space. And it's $1 per year. But the goal is to actually reduce your dependence on brown energy and save you money, to put money back into the pocket of the school district. So those are the two documents that govern the two contractual documents. As far as other guarantees, I guess there's no way to guarantee that the sun will always shine and you'll always, get green power. But more often than not, it averages out that whatever the sunshine is that are taken into the models, the predictive models that go into making these projections, they're usually right. The only risk, and I was talking about this before, the only risk I see is that maybe one or two of the 25 years that the system's in place, you have an unseasonably wintry, rainy year, and you don't get a lot of sunlight on the system. And in that case, you're still connected to the grid, right? So you might buy more brown power at a higher rate for that year or two, but but that probably won't happen. And even if it did, Econergy and the Pennsylvania Clean Energy Consortium would share in that risk, right? Because the goal is to be able to keep the system working at maximum output so that the Econergy and PCEC can get their investment back, right? They're putting up all the money. And so as the school district pays down its bill, they get their money back, right? And if the system isn't producing, well, then there's a chance that at the end of that 25 years, they won't be made whole. So they're incentivized to make sure the system is up and running at maximum capacity, at maximum production, and producing the most amount of green energy for the districts.
How large is PCE, or is PCEC right now? How many members or how many organizations are part of it?
Right now, there's only 3. We just started last year. We launched in April of last year. Obviously, April of last year was a tough time to launch because of COVID. But we're new to the state, and that's why I'm out here talking to you guys. We're new to the state here.
What are the 3 organizations?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, what are the 3 organizations? I think you mentioned them, but I missed it.
Oh, we're working with Carlisle. I think I mentioned them before. Carlisle, Pocono, and I forget the last one. I have to look that up.
Okay, that's fine.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I just
and I
wanted
guess,
to go back.
we're here as well, so that matters, I guess, a little bit.
So I just wanted to go back and clarify some things on the guarantee and what the district is responsible for. So
Sure.
the guarantee is for the price at which we would purchase power? That's the guaranteed price?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but the savings aren't necessarily guaranteed, or the amount of energy that's generated isn't guaranteed. It's the price that we would pay for power.
Correct.
And do we
Correct.
only pay for power that we need to supplement what is generated from the solar?
Say that again?
So like, is the solar power free, and we pay for supplemental power when that's insufficient?
No, the solar power is paid for, here, let me go back.
That's baked into the rate for all the power that we use?
So the PPA rate, you'd be paying for your solar power at that rate, at the $76 per megawatt hour. And again, this is all estimates and the current estimates. But you pay at that rate versus your brown power, I think now is costing you over $90 a megawatt hour.
Okay, so the more solar power that's generated on the roof,
The lower your overall bill will be for the district.
because we'd be using this lower priced.
Correct, correct. It'd be a behind-the-meter system, and everything you use would go right into the district, right into the buildings, and you wouldn't need to draw brown power. Therefore, your overall cost would be lower.
And then in times where we generate more solar power than we use, we are getting credit for that.
You are, and at the end of the year, you actually get money back from the utilities for those credits.
And then, sorry, just the last thing that I wanted, so the lease rate is, your company would pay the district $1 a year for access to the roof on which the solar panels are installed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to put a number to it, right? You have to charge us something to do it, to have our system up there, and it's just $1.
Okay, thank you.
And then, I'm sorry, I want to hold all the time here. I just one more question. So the PPA price, is that that won't change over the whole term of the lease?
PPA price is, well, it's fixed, but there is an escalator. So that escalator takes into account inflation. You see that inflation grows prices in general 4% on average. So I'm glad you brought that up. Here's something to realize. As time goes on and inflation continues to sort of grow at 4% on average, your savings will actually increase because your PPA rate will stay at that 76 range in the beginning and increase incrementally over the years, but it won't increase at the pace of inflation. So while in 10 years your brown power price might be, $100 a megawatt hour, your PPA price is only going to be in the 80s. So the gap will grow, and your savings over time will actually increase during the PPA, because the PPA holds your price much more steady than the rate of inflation.
Thank you.
Yes?
I have a number of questions,
Yes.
and I know you've probably already said most of these things, but I just want to make sure that I understand.
Okay.
So first off, there's no upfront cost, there's no out-of-pocket cost to the district?
No,
correct?
there's not.
And once this is installed and running, we will be paying a lower kilowatt hour rate than we do now.
Yes.
Are there any other maintenance costs, support costs, any other costs of any kind?
No, that's all included in your PPA price.
I do see the upgrades aren't included, though. Could you speak to that?
The upgrades are not included. The upgrades will be elective by the district if you wanted to add any additional. So we don't include that because we don't know what you would, how you would want to maximize your system. But we would keep it operating at maximum production for the 25 years. But if you wanted to, I don't know, get the latest and greatest thing and put it up on your roof, I mean, we wouldn't cover that. So yeah, I mean, but there's really is no reason to upgrade it. You're already getting great savings. Yes, sir.
So are there any other anticipated costs?
Can you repeat that, please?
Are there any other anticipated costs?
No.
And can you talk to me about, once this array is installed and running, what type of routine maintenance is performed on it to make sure that it's operating at peak efficiency and that everything's
Well, you have
good
to
with the world?
we have crews come out, check the performance, the production of the system, check the inverters, check the connections, make sure that the system is clean, because if it's not, it can affect the production, and a few other things. I'm not exactly sure of all the little ins and outs because I'm not an engineer, but I know that there's a number of things that they do on a routine basis that keeps the system operating at max capacity.
In terms of monitoring the performance, is that something that, let me give you, for instance, right now, if there's an issue with the climate system in that building, our head of buildings and grounds gets a text message that alerts him that something needs attention. So is there some comparable?
Yes, you'll have a meter that monitors the system and the production and the output. And you'll be able to actually read and look at how much you're producing every day and how much you're saving. It'll be in real time.
And can
So-
we integrate that with our existing alert system? Is that possible?
That I have to talk to the engineers. I'm not sure how it could alert, but there is a way for you to monitor the system itself. As far as integrating, I'm sure the engineers could figure something out.
Would there be an additional cost for that?
Maybe. It depends on how much it costs. If it's a nominal cost, then we'll cover it.
What happens after 25 years?
If you want to keep the system, you're welcome to, buy it at whatever the market rate is for the equipment. Or we'll come and pick it up and haul it off and use it and and recycle it and use parts that we can for other systems and recycle the rest.
Any sense of what that buyout might look like in 25?
It'll be whatever the fair market value of the equipment is.
I have no idea what these things cost. Can you just give me some kind of ballpark based on the number of units we're putting up there and what they cost? I mean, what?
I don't know. I would have to look into that and see what that would look like.
Okay, that would be good to know. So it sounds like we're looking at.
But I guess in any case, well, I could look into that and let you know. I could email you, Kelly or Martha, and let you know
that would
what
be
we
great.
think it might be after 25 years. But it's going to be, there's a lot of factors and variables, right? Because right now, as the gentleman before mentioned, there's a lot of supply chain issues, right? This is all based on today. But when we build, who knows what will be happening with the supply chain and how much materials will cost, right? So that all plays in. There's a lot of moving parts, and I'm not trying to be like evasive with the answer. It's just there's a lot of moving parts to it.
And I just want to so it sounds like I've heard that there'd be an escalator for inflation, and that if we were interested in upgrading the equipment prior to the 25 years, that, that would be an optional additional expense, depending on what kind of upgrade we were interested in.
Yeah, there may be, and let me just show you this. Let me go back to this last slide here. Oops. Okay, if you look at the top, second one from the top, energy storage systems, we have something called Smart Solar, where we work with another partner that does batteries and battery backup. They will come in, and for example, that would be an upgrade. They'll come in and they will do also a no-cost analysis for you to see what it would take to add storage to your solar. That won't cost you anything. And then if it makes sense, we could set something up where, you pay over time or we incorporate it. But a lot of these upgrades are, they're grants and incentives, right? So you see grant writing there. For some of the districts that we try to look at what we can do to help them get grants, and then Ecology will front them the money for the match on the grant, and then according to the district budget, they can pay it back over time. So there's ways to do it, but again, it's always about saving the district money, and we will never do a project if it hurts the district or if it doesn't save the money. We would just tell you, don't do nothing. It's because sometimes it's better to do nothing. You might be getting a great price on your brown power, and unless you just want to go green, if you want to save money, sometimes it's better just to do nothing.
And the storage option would be batteries or some type of device, so that if we ran into a streak of lousy weather and it wasn't sunny, that we would still be running off of our clean power.
That's
Some
correct.
period.
And then there's also components to smart solar where you can sort of monitor how the demand management is going with the utility, and if they have areas of peak demand and you have excess capacity, you can sell your battery storage to the grid, and that's another form of revenue for the district.
And I just want to double check, so it's my understanding that this operation has only been in place since last April?
With, yes, here in Pennsylvania, yes.
And in terms of references, it sounded like you had the Carlisle School District, one of the Pocono School Districts, and a third that you...
Well, I guess the third is this one. I misspoke. This is the third. This is the third presentation I've done for Pennsylvania schools.
So the Carlisle and the Pocono installations are pretty recent then?
We're in the same process. I guess we're further along with them, but we're in the same process as you guys are, discovery, working with them to figure out where to put it, how much they're saving.
So we couldn't go visit any place and actually see a functioning array at this point?
No, because again, we haven't been building, we built nothing last year. And school just got back in session, right? We're finally past September, we're in October, and we're out here now.
Are there
It's hard to
any,
talk about saving money when there's no students in the school, in the
do you have
building.
any comparable functioning installations in any other neighboring states?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you have any other comparable functioning installations in any of our neighboring states? Could we go to visit a site in New Jersey or Maryland or New York?
I believe Ecology has in Illinois, Ohio, New York, and there's some other consortiums they've started. I could check with
If you might be able
Ecology.
to, give us some references that, where we could talk to the business managers and the
Yeah.
boards.
Absolutely.
That this is captivating, it's I think that, in principle, I think our board would love to do something like this, and I think a large part of the community is interested. I gotta say that I have some reservations about how new your enterprise is, and that we can't go reach out and taste and touch it,
Right.
even though it's free.
Right.
So anything you can do to increase our comfort level, I think would be a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience in answering my
Oh,
questions.
yeah, that's no problem. Listen, we're excited to be here and talk to you guys. If you ever have questions, please reach out to us.
Can I
We'll be
ask
happy
you
to
one more
answer them.
question?
Yeah,
Sorry,
some
is
questions
everybody-
too.
Can I
Oh.
jump in?
Yeah, Laura,
Yeah.
you're up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So I know a lot is changing very quickly with green energy. What would happen if we decided, like in 10 years, something better comes along and we don't want to do this anymore? What would happen there with our 25-year contract?
I believe there's a clause, there's a termination clause in the contract.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Kristen, did you have another question?
Yeah, let's see. A few questions. So just thinking about the roof maintenance. I'm assuming on Lynnwood, we just installed a roof that can support solar, but that roof will need maintenance over time aside from the solar panels. So let's say we need to do some coating or whatever work happens on top of a school roof. What happens then in terms of us getting those panels off, put somewhere, the roof redone? I'm sure that's something that other institutions have run up against.
Yeah, there's one, install and reinstall built into your price. But we typically, there's not a need to take off the whole system. That usually doesn't happen, especially when you start with a new roof. And we only will build on a roof that we think is going to support the system and not need that kind of maintenance over the period that the system is there.
And then in terms of the installation process, how is that done in a way that causes minimal disruption to the students and the school life?
Yeah, it'll be done, obviously, they'll have to go through the electrical room to get to the box. But other than that, they can go around the back, or they'll do it where they're not entering the school, and it won't cause disruption to your classes.
And just one final question. So I don't know how these function, but are solar panels like a string of Christmas lights? If one goes down, the whole system's down and we're back on brown power? Like, what
No.
happens if the system starts to be on the fritz?
No, if it does, we're also monitoring it on the other end.
Okay.
So if we see things that are wonky, we'll alert you about it before you know something is going wrong.
Right. Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I'm hearing all these questions, and I'm getting new ones as I hear them, so I apologize. But just, so you mentioned operation and maintenance is paid for, upgrades, sorry, O&M is paid for, upgrades are not paid for. I know over time panels can get damaged, they get cracked, they can lose their efficiencies. Would that fall under maintenance, and would that be covered, or would that fall under, like a new panel, for example? Would that be considered an upgrade, or that
I'm
is
sorry.
that ongoing maintenance?
With the mask, I'm having a hard time understanding you. Can you?
Sorry, okay,
Thank
so
you.
over time, I know panels can break or they can lose their efficiencies. Would replacement panels, would those fall under O&M, maintenance, or they fall under upgrades? So in other words,
They
would
will be under
covered?
O&M. If there's anything with the panels, that will be under O&M, they will be covered. The panels will lose efficiency every year about 0.5%, so not very much.
Okay, and then one last question also, if we were to agree and move on this, what's the timeframe, give or take?
Sure. So from the time that you decide to move forward until the time that we can sort of start construction, so to speak, it's only about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how fast we can get an engineer out here to walk the site. But once you sign there's going to be an option agreement that lets us, do the due diligence we need to do to make sure that everything is structurally sound. And then after the option agreement, you'll get a visit from an engineer. We'll give you a final proposal, a PPA, and a lease. Once you sign those, we can start construction within weeks. Now, what will slow down the process is on the backside, right, with interconnection with the utility. Those can take anywhere from 30 days to 120 days. But for a build this size, to actually build the project, it only takes about 5 weeks to build this actual system. So anywhere from 3 to 10 weeks.
Thank you.
Is there inventory, or, if we need, 400 panels? Are they
Yeah,
sitting someplace?
Yeah, we would typically, we would ask to store them in the electrical room or, somewhere where the school's not using the space until we could install them, but we try to get out pretty quickly once we get them delivered. and put
But
them
they're
on
not
board.
on a boat or in China, right?
Sorry?
They're not on a boat someplace or in China. You actually have them someplace. If we were to start something in a
If-
few weeks, there's actually goods.
If you were to, that's a good question. So we wouldn't procure the equipment until you sign at least the option. Once you sign the option and we come out and do the inspection and we give you the final proposal, then we expect that you're going to move forward with the project. Let me say this, and again, in the interest of full transparency, that is the only time that there will be a charge if you pulled out of it after having signed the agreement, because we've already procured the product. We'll do a lot on our own nickel. My being here is on our own nickel. The presentation, the engineer that comes out the first time, that's all on us. But our margins are very thin, so we can't have, we make money on volume of projects. And so when we procure product for a project, then we are expecting it to go. And so if, for whatever reason, you took all of our, and this has happened, you took all of our analysis, all of our engineering work, everything that we've done to show you the great savings that you could have, and you went with another company after we already sort of decided that we're going to be together and go through this, then we would charge for the engineer's time to come out.
That's understandable. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the supply chain. We've just sort of completed 2 pretty significant construction projects, and there were several you know, issues with things that used to be commodities
Yep.
that now are
Yep.
hard to get. So
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
just trying to get my arms around.
So, yeah,
things.
we have preferred suppliers, and the lead times are, well, they were, you know, a few weeks, they can be upwards of 5 to 6, but we build that in. You know, there's enough time from the time we decide to sign to the build time that we could actually procure a product, and make sure that we have it before it's time for the actual installation. The other thing to keep in mind is if you guys want to do this this year, you want to start fairly soon because again, EPC prices are, you know, they're fluctuating for material, but the other part of it is the construction. It costs more for labor in the winter. So if you weren't going to do it this year, then probably we would recommend you wait till the spring to increase the savings to the district. I mean, if we built it in the winter, that $4,000 might go down to $2,000 because of labor. I'm just giving you rough numbers, but we would recommend builds either in the summer. So the question about how to make sure you're not disrupting classes, we do a lot of building in the summer and in the spring.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just had one more as you were talking. So there are certain opportunities that the school district has, and maybe this is a question more for Kelly, to purchase things from like the state pricing, you know, they get it, and so it's like, okay, we can get vans at this state-approved price, and we know that that's a good one to proceed without having to do bids. Does this kind of arrangement, because it's with PASBO, like, does that mean this is the, you know, the best pricing a school district could get for this kind of service? Or would it be something where we would want to get multiple bids to consider what the savings and package could look like?
That's a great question. I can definitely look into that and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
So I know one of the questions stemmed to your group's limited presence in Pennsylvania so far, just with the 3 school districts. I'm not sure if we're one of the 3. But also just speaking to the fact that this is part of PCEC as a nonprofit initiative with the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators and the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials. So I'm assuming they are endorsing your work.
They are.
On the one hand, we are a little bit hesitant because the footprint isn't quite here
Right.
yet.
Yep.
But you also do have the endorsement of these 2 organizations.
That's exactly it.
So do we get any backing from them? I don't, like, what is, there's a risk for us, and what is the insurance to that risk? But you also do have this endorsement, so.
We have the endorsement. We've worked with Mark and Wayne, the EDs of those organizations. But we're sponsored by them, right? They endorse what we're doing. I guess the reason why they're doing it is because it's the best deal and the best way to do these kind of projects that they've heard of. You know, I guess, what risk is there to the school district? What is the
What's
risk?
the risk?
I'm asking the question, I don't.
I guess that's what I'm saying. There is no risk.
And I guess to
The
my
only risk,
question,
as I mentioned before, the only risk is that the system produces less than you think it would, but then you'll still be saving a lot of money because overall, you'd still be getting a much lower price than you would have been paying under Brown Power. And you're getting money into your district. So, I mean, there really is. And people say this all, I can't believe it, and, you know, there must be something else, or, you know, it's too good to be true. This is it. There's no, I'm here. Any other questions, please? I would love to.
There is a risk, and it is the sun.
Well, yeah, and that.
If there is no sun, there is no energy.
Right, and the sun, so until the sun stops shining, I guess, you know, but, you know, it's been shining ever since
Machines prepare the sky.
on a time, and I think it's gonna
I
continue.
would also like to remind the board and inform you, sir, that we have had at least one presentation by a student group, multiple students and their parents requesting us to do more for our community and its environment. And I see this as a step in that direction where we're responding responsibly and listening to our residents' requests for the help the students need. Our planet is in peril. Some may or may not agree. The weather is changing, and if we can do things now for generations to come, I think it's, and risk-free, I think it's a good idea.
So,
Who-
and
who
once
else
it
does
comes
what
time
you
to
do,
build,
if I may
once it
ask?
comes time to build, also look at number 3. We do hire local community
Joy is
members
here.
to come in and work on the projects.
Right, I agree with everything Ari said, that there's good motivation and incentive. I guess the question that I would wonder for the board is, this is one company's presentation of what the savings could be. How do we not know that there's somebody that could be like, oh, I could get it for whatever, 70 kilowatt, or, price it at 70 where you're at 76, and our first year savings could be $10,000 versus 4,300. I do
love
think
the- I-
it's worth
yeah.
exploring.
So just to that, Mr. Young, if we were to solicit more information from other companies or bids, would this rate be negotiable if we get bids from other groups that are doing similar work?
The rate is based on a number of things that change. The supply chain issues could affect the rate. The cost of labor could affect the rate.
Your margins affect the rate.
Well, the only margin that happens is on, the PCEC is nonprofit, there's no margins here. That happens at the economy level, and I can just tell you that it is only a single-digit percentage, and it's a very low percentage. Otherwise, you couldn't get the savings you get. I mean, you couldn't. And so feel free to shop the market, feel free to look around. Feel free to call us and ask questions. Even if you do go with someone else, we are here as a resource. We were built to help Pennsylvania school districts, and whether that's education or whether that's an actual installation or whether it's getting you a lower supply contract, we're here for you, period.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you. It's been a very interesting presentation.
Okay,
Thanks for answering our questions.
you're welcome.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is just our Informational Act 1 Index. All of it is on board docs, and I have a copy to pass along to everyone. It is just informational, letting the board know that the Department of Education had published the Act 1 Index for the 22-23 fiscal year, and it is a 3.6%.
3.4?
3.4, sorry.
Last year was 2.7?
Last year, it was 3.0, but due
3.0.
to the reassessment, we had to go with the prior year's index, which is 2.6.
0.6, thank
Where
you.
I'm getting the 6 from. Sorry.
Could you speak a little bit about what data the Department of Education looks at to determine, is it roughly like an inflationary number?
Statewide average weekly wage and the employment cost index are the two.
Right, no, I was just hoping she could say it for the benefit of the public and kind of explain where this is coming from and how we might then use it.
It is, I'm just gonna, it is from the statewide weekly average rate, statewide average weekly wage rate, as well as the federal employment cost index. This is I'm not sure what other information I can give.
Right, so it says an assessment that, they look at data and they say across Pennsylvania, wages have been going up and costs have been going up. And as a result, they come up with this index, which is the maximum that a district without jumping through some hoops is permitted to raise taxes to keep up with that inflationary, history, looking back at the last year so we can budget for next year.
That is correct. But this is just to give you that information. We're not making any recommendations or administration's not making any recommendations at this point.
Then there's that additional piece about market value and income aid ratio being greater than 0.4. Are we one of the districts that falls in that realm?
I can certainly look into that.
No,
No, we're not,
we're .15, I believe.
Okay.
We're at the lowest aid ratio that they have. Other thing that's interesting about the statewide average weekly wage is that, you know, the average weekly wage in the southeast probably is considerably higher than the statewide average weekly wage.
Definitely is. Yes. It is. I can tell you that. It totally is.
That's for sure.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Thank you.
All right. Then that finishes my portion of the agenda for this evening. It's now time for public comment.
Okay. For public comment, if you could come to the mic and state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Joy Baxter. I live at 1713 Sue Ellen Drive. I am a district parent as well as the chair of the Clean Energy Co-op, which is in southeastern Pennsylvania. The Clean Energy Co-op has 4 current projects in Pennsylvania. I presented in April and at the May's meeting. I really appreciate everything, all the questions and answers that you guys did with Raj. I completely agree with almost everything except his number for your current electricity bill. I analyzed all of the electricity bills for the district, and for Lynnwood, over the period of September of 2019 to July of 2020, instead of his evaluation of 9-point-something cents per kilowatt hour, you guys were actually paying 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour.
I'm sorry, could you repeat both those numbers?
I forgot exactly his evaluation, but it was something like 9-point-something cents per kilowatt hour. But you guys were actually paying 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour for your usage. A commercial bill is split between usage and demand. It is possible that when the information was passed to him, both of those numbers were included together and then divided by usage, because that's what it's basically twice as much. But your valuation for the solar, what that offsets is only the usage, which is what you're paying during that period of time is 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour. In their PPA price currently in this estimate is 7.61 cents per kilowatt hour. In my presentation in May, we had estimated PPA price of 7.2 cents per kilowatt hour. Not very much different. And I must say, the difference between the Clean Energy Co-op and almost anyone else that works in Pennsylvania is not only do we have very low margins, we have no employees. This is a completely volunteer-run organization. That is why we can have low costs. We are doing it for the environment, for our community. So the people who are investing are gonna be local Havertown people. They are gonna be the investors in this project, okay? Not someone from somewhere else. So, in the May presentation, I suggested that also the PPA price with a Clean Energy Co-op would have absolutely no escalators over time, because our investors put a certain amount of money in, and we try to give them a low dividend, but it doesn't change over time. Also, the valuation. So what we are suggesting is, because we can only offer a PPA price which is above what you guys are currently paying, we are suggesting that you guys buy out the system from us at 6 years. Having an organization own the system costs money. Having you guys own the system does not cost money, because we have soft costs, right? So if you guys bought out the system after 6 years, which I did not hear an option for that, there's something to ask. We've basically gotten tax benefits through a third party, through the third party ownership of almost 50%. You asked how much, what the valuation would be at 25 years. Usually they use discounted cash flow, what they could make from the system. We would not be using that fair market value assessment. We would be making the assessment of what do we owe our investors with that very low dividend. So that would be basically, you would be getting the system at basically 50% of the cost at year 6.
Could I make a suggestion, which is, you know, I mean, typically we limit public comment to a finite amount of time, and I'm thinking, you know, we've sat through this presentation this evening. Would it make sense to perhaps have you get back in touch with our business folks and give us an updated proposal that perhaps responds to some of the things that you heard tonight and compare and contrast with what we heard? And once we have something and they give us something to chew on, maybe we'd have you come back for another presentation. Does that work?
That works. I just have one final thing. So the way that over time with that buyout, I had assessed it at 2 different low bond rates, 2 and 4. Hopefully those would still be available in 6 years. And those would be at 5.1 kilowatt hours for the 2%. I didn't write down the 4%. So you would be, if you include a modest inflation of 1% over the 25 years, you would be saving money. Even with the very low rates that you guys have been able to contract for the electricity. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Any other questions, comments from the board? Looks like we're at the end of our agenda, doesn't it?
It does.
Could I get a motion to adjourn? Moved. Okay, thank you, everybody. Our next public board meeting is
Next week.
next Thursday, right here. Thank you very much.